extend a warm welcome to all of you for Wednesdays for Water. Today is the 20th of September. This is session number 112. So, on behalf of the Wednesdays for Water, an initiative of the W4W Foundation, a think tank instituted as a citizens collective, we welcome you to the conversation on Dumpcrete, an upcycled solution against urban flooding for the Indian informal settlements. The objective of Wednesdays for Water, which was started in April 2021, is to engage in conversation with water experts, grassroots practitioners, citizens, policymakers, and youth to explore the complex, intertwined issues associated with water and the possible solutions. We have expanded since then to have more activities like the Friday Waters and the Monday Munching with Women for Water, besides organizing water workshops, water talks and walks, seminars, research, special courses, and conference panels to continue the water conversation in various possible ways. Please visit our website www.w4w.in for more details. Nearly 65 million people live in urban informal settlements in India, and this number is going to rise with climate change-induced migration in the coming years. Most of these settlements are in the low-lying areas or suburbs of the city. The increase in the frequency and intensity of extreme rainfall events have left them grappling with flooding every monsoon. While they are the backbone of an economy, not much thought has ever gone to provide them dignity and quality of life. Today, we are joined by Mr. Gunraagh Talwar, a young architect and urban planner with a strong commitment to sustainability and innovation. His initiative, Dumpcrete, aims to transform urban legacy waste into a circular and self-sustaining alternative for the architectural engineering and construction, that is the AEC industry. He was previously associated with the Delhi government, where he assisted in the city's ambition to be a city of lakes as an associate fellow. With a passion for sustainable urban development, he continues to inspire positive change in the world of architecture and environmental design. So over to you, Gunraagh, to share your story. Once again, a very warm welcome to you. Over to you. You may share your screen.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. There is not much for me to say anymore. You've covered a lot of ground anyway. But let me put a picture to it and take you through what my journey has been. Working with one of the toughest informal settlement in Delhi, and how for the last 3 years I've finally come up with a solution that I believe strikes several things together. Uh, so to begin with, just like yeah, I can see that you can see my screen. I have two screens. So if there's a problem, I will let you know. And hang on, just give me a second. I can't see. Okay, sorry about that. Great.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
The photograph that you see here is a photograph taken by Lokesh Dang. He's a famous architectural photographer based out of Delhi. And I think Lokesh captures the reality that dump sites in the southern urban context have. It's not just waste management, there's people involved. There's also an ecosystem at stake, and it's a living nightmare. So let me take you through three such instances that I believe are very important to what we're doing. There's also people in the waiting room, so if you could let them in, that'd be great. I can see that they're popping up. Anyway,
I will do
so
that. I will do that.
first is an instance in the center of the screen, which is April 2021, where post-monsoon, the Bhalaswa dump site had weakened in its structure. So since this is again not technically a landfill, it is not scientifically engineered, it's a dump site where waste was just dumped in. The structure loosened up, and post-monsoon, a chunk of it actually fell into the settlement. Now, I'd like you to pay attention to what you see here in the foreground, and that's a chunk of soil that largely comprised of the debris that fell. There was also some construction and demolition waste. So, thankfully, no lives were lost, but this was a great loss for the people and their livelihoods for many weeks. In fact, the wall that separates the landfill and the community has not still been restored. So, that's the gravity of the situation on ground. And on the right and left, what you see is a photograph day and night from the same context, where in April 2022, a fire blazed at the landfill, and this was such a huge fire that it went on for 2 to 3 weeks. In my personal experience, these are all my photographs, by the way, is that there were uncountable fire trucks coming in, but they simply could not douse the fire. The problem with India's dump sites is that the methane generation is not tapped into. So what that leads to is several pockets, and there's no way to actually identify the pockets, or there's no way that's been adopted that these methane pockets can be identified. What happens is that uh, several million liters of water is lost in just trying to douse the fire, and they're trying to water out what they think is the fire, but that's not actually the root cause of it. So landfill volume or dump site volume is very directly proportional, inversely proportional to how well managed it is and how easily such emergencies could be tackled. Uh, so there are several concerns with Delhi's dump sites. In a very specific example, I've spoken about how they are living disasters. I've spoken about how they are health and safety hazards, and they're also grievous air and water polluters. And in my understanding, I pin it to the 54 million tons of legacy waste that comprises these dump sites. And so of this, it is estimated that 64% of the entire volume is actually inert soil. Now, getting back to it again, this is why I put the picture here, is that what you see, the largest entity that collapsed over the settlement is also this very material. The material that it does not incinerate, it makes management, it's loose enough, it's plastic, and makes management very difficult. It does not have to do much with waste management anymore, but the fact that it's there makes waste management much more difficult. So in Bhalaswa's context, per se, around 1,200 waste pickers are directly affected by the situation, while there are 200,000 or 2 lakh residents who are also affected by the situation. I live in Rohini, and my sector is only a couple of kilometers away, but I see the impact that the landfill has on groundwater here as well. So, what we're doing, or not, what the government is doing with the dump sites in Delhi is that they are trommeling these dump sites. So there are drill-like machines that basically mine the underside of a dump site, and then they sieve it into its specific materials. And this is a means for resource recovery. And the municipality is focusing on three specific materials. The first is refuse-derived fuel. These are basically non-biodegradable that have incineration value. So there are solid waste like plastic, paper, cardboards, and these are sent to waste to energy plants for incineration. They can also be sent to cement kilns where they can be incinerated. Basically, if there's anywhere that has a boiler, which and this calorific value meets their demand, they just send it there. So that's how they sorted this out. The second material is CND waste, which is Malwa. And of course, there's a lot of it because India or we don't have a CND waste management technique. We have plants in the city, but then even in general construction, Malwa is not disposed of ethically. It's just tossed in wherever it can be. So the dump site took a lot of it. And finally, there's the soil-like substance that I have been working with, which is inert soil. And my studies have shown me that this is basically silty sand with gravel and could have slight trace of heavy metals. We tested that was my initial apprehension. Then we tested it out, and then we found that most of these heavy metals were below detection level. So in that regard, it's actually safe to work with. And currently, it's used for backfilling and leveling. So basically, if there's a low-lying area, the government is filling it up, and if there's a space that needs to be leveled, they're using it for that. What that tells me and what that should tell you is that this is a material that can take compression. It is a material that is solid to stand on, and hence it could have a better potential, but it's not explored yet. There is some scope for R&D here. One leap that Delhi has had in this management issue is that they have collaborated with the highway authority, with Mr. Gadkari, and now they're using it to fill the underside of flyovers. So in that case, what you do is you have a shelling for a flyover, and then you fill it in, and over that you construct a road. So what that leads to is you have this large volume that is filled in with a material which is basically of no value. And this is actually where my journey started. And as a young architecture student in 2020, right after the pandemic, I wanted to do something for the community that lives next to the dump site. And what you see here, of course, are people sitting under a water supply line. And we wanted to create this into a community space. We, as architects, of course, we designed everything, but then only in a year this happened. So what you see here is that the entire space that was the community's playground or a space for them to play in and use for recreation was simply lost. And you can see the access was lost too. And right, this was because this area had been earmarked for inert soil dumping. And this was very important because it was a quick way for the municipality to simply dispose of large volumes of the waste. But then what you see here is not a holistic solution. It creates more problems than it actually solves. And after that, they tried another thing, which was in July 2021, which is where they said, "Ki, le ja. So come and take it, fill up your houses with it, and if you can pay for transportation, we'll give it to you for free." So this gives me a huge opportunity, which was that if we could spend some time on the R&D aspect, we could perhaps create something that will have a mainstream product offering for the public. The public was not taking this material just like that. They had their concerns about it. They thought it was unsanitary. They thought it was, who would fill their own house with waste, right? So what it is doing right now is it's creating a lot of air pollution because it's blowing dust. B, it's making everything difficult. Management is difficult. It's just this huge chunk of volume that you don't know what to do with. And so I thought that the prototyping aspect, the journey to Dumpcrete would help reduce local air pollution, will also aid landfill volume reduction. Meanwhile, there was also a question that who would be doing it. So why not involve the waste picker community in process? And earlier this year, I had applied to a grant to Chintan, which is an NGO based out of Delhi, and I was fortunate enough to get it. I'd also competed in a national level grant competition with the Saint Gobain Foundation. It's held through Ethos. It's called the Saint Gobain Grants Program. And through these two grant programs, I took this forward. And here's something that happened very recently. The news covered that Delhi's, inert waste disposal strategy had led to the loss of two huge wetlands in the old Yamuna floodplain. And here's what my moonshot idea was, that if you could turn it into a product, of course, the photo that you see are the product itself. But this is the idea that we had in mind. That let's involve the waste picker community. Let's turn it into a product that works and see how that would lead to sustainable and circular change. And this is the process that we undertook. First of all, of course, we needed the right kind of permission. Second was procurement. So this is what you see. This is the inert soil sample on site. This is the landfill. And third came in the testing for the material. So we tested it for soil composition. We also tested it for toxicity. Once the results were fine and we thought we could move on, uh, these are the three products that I feel could be developed with it. So conventionally, all cementitious products that you may know, the paver blocks that make footpaths, the compressed ash bricks, and cementitious tiles all have a few common components that are common. These are basically sand and aggregate stabilized using some cement, and through different processes, they meet a specific sizing. They also have to meet specific strength characteristics, and that leads to their marketability. So this ensued a long prototyping process. This is my hand. So the first blocks made by my own self because I was underconfident in this. I needed to build confidence in the product, understand how the material works. So it involved making a block, getting it crushed, and then seeing what strength it was achieving. How did it actually react to the environment? And once we were confident enough, we involved the waste picker community. We developed a few blocks. The machine you see is also a DIY. We took this off a YouTube tutorial, and this costs around $100 to build. 100, 200, no wait, $100 to build. And the molds, of course, are pre-manufactured. There's an existing market that we were trying to break into. So everything was available. And over time, I was able to make various kinds of blocks. And that was good because now there was versatility into the product. And there was also diverse applications. Okay, so do you like a specific shape or size? Do you actually have a specific requirement? And let's see if we can meet it. And but then comes in the question that, in contemporary urban development, we say a lot of senseless paving, which is where an area which could have been porous is simply paved off. So then rises the designer in me, and how do you create spaces that are not only paved and inclusive but also porous? So this is a pattern that we designed, and this is how it works. What you get ultimately is that 50% of any paved surface that you pave is porous. The other 50% is, of course, walkable and inclusive. And I tried it in my own facility. This was the first pilot. It was a very small pilot, around 300 square feet, that's it. But we tested it over time, worked on it, played on it, sat on it, enjoyed picnics here. And that was great confidence building because the team understood what was happening. They understood this would really work. And then also now we could look towards scalability. So for moving on, for our actual first pilot, we wanted to explore ideas that, what could this block be? Would it just be a paver that is supplied to a bulk procurer, or could it be used for different things? Like, could we actually address challenges that are, pressing challenges on society, like how do we mitigate urban floods, which is the idea for this conversation, and could we use it as an alternative for conventional building materials and making green infrastructure? Community composters are on a rise. Could this be a material that could be used to make them? And this is our first pilot. I don't know if you'd be surprised to know, but it took us a week to make. 1 week before the Independence Day. It was a crazy week, but an amazing week because the transformation that we realized, I really, 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 really admire it. And herein, we actually mastered how to use the block in different applications. So what you see with the women sitting on the right is actually a raised garden bed, which is a way to introduce urban gardening into these informal settlements. Urban gardening is really important. One, it increases green cover, it also increases greens, but can also include an aspect where the community starts kitchen gardening, also substantiating their own nutrition. And then there's to include accessible walkways, also to see if we can do a few more things that I'll talk about. So these are simple ways that we did when we were doing the raised garden bed. We also made a filler wall, filled it in with CNT waste. So that was one way to manage CNT waste on site very effectively. And the finish that you see here is a broken tile mosaic. It's something that I believe is vandalism free. No one wants to steal a broken tile. Of course, you could pick it up and hit someone with it, but you won't want to steal it and sell it because that's a problem with informal settlements. If you use metal, if you use something that's valuable and the community does not understand it, it will simply be vandalized and sold off. And that's a reality that you have to understand when working in these areas. So we use materials that are basically no value. This is not a brick they would simply or easily want to build a house with. So they would not ideally just ransack it and take it away. This is the bit that they to understand is made out of waste is different. So as a public building material, it works better. And so now like coming down to a very specific topic for this conversation is that urban pockets or urban green pockets in informal settlements aren't actually green. What happens is over time due to waste disposal, due to C&D waste disposal, and a lot of movement, they become compacted strata, which is barely porous. So what you see in this photograph is that there's of course standing water, but it did not rain that week. It rained the week before. So standing water, and herein standing water also means a risk for waterborne diseases. It's a hotspot for mosquito breeding, and I am sure the audience here understands. So the first step, of course, was cleaning this up, making sure the malwa was disposed of, that the plastic waste was taken to the disposal spot. But then, if we left it right here, we knew it would go back to its original. It would not take too long. 2 months later, it would be the same thing because there's a long-term behavioral change management that we need to carry out and also instigate a sense of usability and value in what is created. So what we did was we created an accessible walkway, and in the center of it is a small recharge pit that I'm testing out right now. Uh, there's a little recharge pit we made, and this is simple blocks, and it's not topped off with a concrete base. Instead, it's a porous base. I expect these blocks to be taken out and the gravel to be taken out. So by the time it's winter, this could become a fire pit, and then this is really tiny. So you fill it up again, it becomes a recharge pit, and the cycle goes on. Of course, this would require regular maintenance. Then this is only a pilot to test. And what we did with the recharge pit is that we inaugurated with the community. We hosted the national flag here on the 15th of August, which was all fun. And picked up the marigolds, tossed them back into the raised planter bed, and we hope this goes on well. So that's it. Now please do ask any questions.
Thank you very much, Gunraagh, for this brief but quite holistic presentation that you delivered. Tell us a little bit more about, how the Dumpcrete is made. When you spoke in terms of making it, so how long do you need to keep it, to set it? A little bit more on the material. Yes, Mansi, over to you.
So are we doing one question at a time, or are we doing multiple questions and then answers?
Maybe we can,
One question at a
Mansi,
time is
yes.
better. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, great. So, see, Dumpcrete is called Dumpcrete because I believe it's an upcycled alternative to precast concrete. And to tell you more about concrete, it's that concrete will take its full strength in 28 days. That's how the material works. It does take half strength in 7 days. So we cast the blocks first. So that's day 1 and 2 goes into the casting process. They're vibrated. So what that vibration does is it leads to compaction, and it also leads to we lose air pockets, which increases the strength. I'm also looking forward to testing out just compaction through a hydraulic press. I'll do that soon. And so what this does is you have a block ready, and then you cure it with water. You cure it for 7 days, and then you cure it for another 21. So on the 28th day is when you get full strength, and that's when the material is ready to be shipped.
Thank you. So I just wanted you to elaborate on the process. Thank you so much.
Happy to share. Very simple, actually. We could train waste pickers to do it in a day.
Okay. Over to you, Mansi. And yes.
Thank you. Thanks for the wonderful presentation. I have a very fundamental question to ask you when you are upcycling waste.
Yes, ma'am.
I will pose two questions, to be honest, one on the statistical side and one philosophical side.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
the first statistical question I have is the Balaswa side. We had a project coming up in the office, and then so for some reason, it did not come to our office for landscape. Uh, I need to know how much waste is already accumulated there, of which how much gets upcycled. Maybe not Dumpcrete, but other activities also. Do we have, enough upcycling entrepreneurs like you who are able to, reclaim some of the waste which is dumped there? First question. And second question is, when we look at waste from the entrepreneuring perspective, do you see that there is a philosophical challenge uh, to really increase the amount of waste so that the entrepreneurship increase? I ask this question as a devil's advocate, thinking that are there enough efforts to reduce the waste reaching the dumping site? Because Balaswa is a nightmare, and the kind of proposals which the government was coming up with, Delhi government, when we were invited to really work on the project, were equally nightmarish. Very shallow approach to reclaim the dumping site. So over to you, and really keen to learn your observations on this.
Okay. So, ma'am, about the statistical side, the last official statistic that I have is from December 2022. I said two statistics actually, 2019 and then 2022 December. 2019, the Balaswa dump site had 80 million metric tons of legacy waste. And
Wow.
right, so 2022 December, we are 54. And this is something they considered an achievement. If you estimate the soil at 65%, there's 38 million metric tons of it. Now, I don't know if you understand the number, but a block is 5 kilos at best. So if there's and
Yes.
I don't, right, it's 5 kilos at best, and you can do the division, understand what an opportunity this could be. Are there enough entrepreneurial initiatives for this? At the moment, I believe the legacy waste management sector is lacking. because I see a lot of initiative for fresh virgin waste. I see a lot of initiatives that are trying to turn plastic into construction material, and I believe that's noble. I believe that's important. And CND waste, of course, has always had a solution. We've always had CND waste blocks and recycled CND. Inert, of course, has not been experimented with. It's been holistically ignored as of yet. So I think that was a great opportunity for me to tap in. And at the moment, I'm not very capitalistic about it. I just want to see and explore how far and what is the potential of it. So that's why these small pilots and small we're doing. Through the
Yes.
last 3 months that I have been working on this with a two-man team that works full time, is that we've processed around 30 metric tons to make 30, 60, 65, around 3,000, 30,000, 30,000 blocks. No, wait, it's okay, na? Sorry, I'm getting the math wrong. 30 tons, yeah, so 12,000 blocks. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a still big contribution for people like us who are not doing anything to reduce the
See,
waste, to be honest.
let's not consider that. Let's consider the fact that the 30 rounds is a good start, because if we manage to get the
Absolutely.
blocks to market, we can obviously keep it going on. The problem is to also crack
Absolutely.
the market, and here there is there's no demand as such as that. There will never be demand for it. You just have to make it a viable alternative, like the government did with fly ash blocks at one time.
Yeah. So, Ranjana, may I just ask one more question in
Yeah,
continuation?
yeah.
And
It's
Gunraagh, may I request you
I'm uh, I'm sorry, but your voice is cracking. Is it only
Mansi.
me?
No, Mansi, your voice is
video
cracking.
on if it is possible, because you are the key speaker. So it will be nice to have your video on.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Yes, sorry, sorry.
Gunraagh. Yes, yes. Please keep
Yeah.
your
So
video on.
my just follow up question to that. I'm saying if you may please keep your video on, that will be
I
nice,
I did
because you
turn
are
it
our
on.
key speaker.
Okay. Can you
Okay.
see me now?
Yes, Gunraagh, we can see you.
Okay, great. I can't see
Yeah,
myself.
you may continue, Ranjana, with others' questions. I will.
Yes, okay. So Sneha has raised her hand. Sneha, you may ask your question, please.
Yes, hi. I actually, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Just introduce yourself briefly and you may ask.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Sneha. I am currently pursuing a master's degree in economics at Terry. And
Okay.
I just wanted to know, I don't know a lot about waste management or
If you
architecture for
close
that
your
matter.
presentation, I think we see you full screen.
Okay. I'll do that.
Yes, so
Is that
I
better?
don't, yes. Shall I continue?
Yes, yeah, please continue, Sneha. Yes, Gunraagh.
Yes, so actually, I don't know a lot about architecture and I would like to learn more, but my question pertains to an economic aspect. So I've seen a lot of sustainable solutions not become scalable because they are too costly to implement. So was there a point where you faced this problem, and was there like some particular solution you would like for this product of yours?
Is that your question?
Yeah, yeah. That's my question. Like, is
So,
there some
thank
economic aspect to this as well?
okay. There is. Thank you for asking. Right. I believe it's a very important question, especially for the Indian market. We will never buy anything that's slightly, marked up if it means sustainable. I don't think we're there yet. And even if some of us do, I don't think the government ever will, because they will eventually only rely on L1. So in that regard, see, precast concrete is three materials. There's sand, aggregate, cement, and water, right? Let's consider that there are three raw materials. There's sand, aggregate, cement. Cement is going to cost the same, right? So let's keep that aside. if you replace the aggregate with C&D and you replace uh, the sand component with the soil, you're automatically cutting down on these two materials that would have otherwise costed you money. And as I mentioned during the presentation, the civic authority is giving out these materials for free for anybody who can pay for the transportation. And you have to pay for the transportation for any of the other materials anyway. So as a unit economics game, it works well, so long as your production matches conventional production. And that's the next step actually. Once we perfect the product, that's when we look towards scaling its production and keeping it at par with the normal PCC of production. So in any case, you can undercut the price.
All right, that's great. Thank you so
That
much.
makes sense, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you, Sneha. And I see Mr. Sheshadri has raised his hand. So first him and then Tarun. Mr. Tarun Nanda has, of course, written in the chat box. Over.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay, good evening to you. I think first time we are seeing face to face.
Yes, that's true.
And we have been in touch a long time back also. And
That's true. You've seen me through the journey.
I've been working actually in Delhi in environmental field for nearly three or decades through my NGO Vigyan Vijay Foundation. Until 2011, I was very active in Delhi, and then I shifted to Chennai. So since 2011, I've been in Chennai. So that is the background.
Right.
But before that, I have been very close to Ashish Jain with IPCA.
Okay.
You might know him through your circle. And
I don't actually.
Gazipur and East Delhi was our favorite place where we used to go and visit and pick up information and various things. And it used to be ghastly. It used to be ghastly. We went on a visit, and after a couple of visits, we became very well known with the community there. You will not believe, we were offered a cup of tea prepared from the biogas pulled out from the landfill. That was the scene. We could just
Did you
imagine
accept the offer or did you decline it?
No. We gave that boy a very big sermon, and I told him this is a time bomb, and you will find very soon it will all blow up into a fire, and it might blast off. Anyway, right now I'm in Chennai, and there are a lot of developments happening. At Chennai, Greater Chennai Corporation under the leadership of Radhakrishnan and earlier Bediji is having a few wards with zero landfill. What they have is they have a few dump sites, but dump sites also are there only for a week or so. After that, the dump material is all gone. What they do is they have got some startups. Single-use plastics are straight away going into a process. Now they have got into a process. It's called adapted rapid pyrolyzer with some appropriate temperature. So from SUP, it is straight away turned into plastic oil. And then plastic oil is again refined and made into more finer oil for literally which can be used in furnaces, boilers, kiln, and other things. And they are developing that oil to be used in internal combustion engine. That also will come up maybe in a year or two. So plastics is being taken care of like that. Then you got the bio waste is very nicely done. So those bio waste which can go into biogas, going into biogas plant, they are literally bottling the compressed biogas and selling it off, in some lots. And these are all right now in startups, but they are going to get into some entrepreneurship and become regular companies with IIT Madras giving them the lead. So something like this is ought to be done, or rather all landfills, it should be biomined, and that space should be used as a sorting area. It should go into say 4 or 5 slots. The blue one separate for recycled ones, recyclable ones. The red ones which are to be taken care of, and then the orange ones or the medical waste, and then of course the green one goes straight away into the biosector. It will go either as a biogas or composting, and composting also is very attractive way. They've got certain compostings being done on vermicomposting, and they are literally catching this whole composting units to produce more worms, and that is going into the fisherman community. So we got really impressed by all the startups. Circularity of each of those process is so excellent that everything is producing some good product or the other. So it's not a question. It is just a sort of openable suggestions to which we can adopt in NCR. As a matter of fact, NCR, being along with NCR,
yes,
seven odd dump sites in all the directions, and giving all the fumes into the city. It's quite bad. Something has to be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Majid. I think that what you've mentioned is a great ecosystem to have for fresh waste, but the solution I'm working on is largely centric around legacy waste. So that's where you can ask me any questions, and I'm happy to take any inputs.
And you carry on. Only thing is just be careful that you don't have any metals and other things which are getting into.
I was actually very apprehensive. So क्या हुआ था? Sometime back, Delhi would use asbestos sheets for roofing, and they realized that eventually they realized that asbestos sheddings would end up being heavily carcinogenic, and that's when the material was banned. I don't want to do any of that. And अगर कुछ भी problem है, I will work on it. I have a good intention with mine. So that's the testing we actually done. And only when the testing worked did we move forward.
I give you encouragement and make sure that more of you can keep solving the other 6 landfills also.
Oh, right, sir. I want to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, so there is a question from Mansi, so I'll just read that out. So she has another question. She says, my other question is lifespan of Dumpcrete, comparative cost. Who are the takers? Do you buy the waste from dump site? Its cost? Your insights on leachate from these dump sites that is polluting soil and groundwater. So she has asked a few questions so I'm sure you could take them up, right?
Let
one
me
by one.
read the question. Okay. Lifespan of Dumpcrete, since it behaves similar to concrete, should not be any different from the lifespan of concrete, which goes around to 1800 years. And one good thing is that every block that you produce that is damaged, that is not good enough to for an output, we crush it and then we use it again. So in that case, that works out. We don't generate any waste in our activity. Comparative cost, as I mentioned earlier, is that once the production scales right, see, there are material costs and then there are operational costs. There's obviously also the capex that you have to get a machine running. And in terms of the material costs, we run low because we don't have to purchase the material. It's for free. You can pay for transportation and get it. Logistically, it's best to have a facility near the dump site, so you don't have to pay much for transportation, and that's that break even. In the operational side of you, it's going to be the amount of people working, so human resources divided by the number of blocks you're making every day, and that is heavily dependent on the equipment that you invest in. We've been working on our $100 DIY machine. So with that, we make around 300 blocks a day. 300 blocks a day is thankfully at par, means for like at par with conventional PCC block cost, but then eventually in the long run, we should go down once you get the right machines going. उससे पहले, let me perfect the R&D phase. Is there another question? Your insights on leachate from these dump sites that is polluting soil and groundwater? Well, see, as someone who's been there, who's walked around it, been there, I've seen I've seen leachate pools around the dump site. I've also seen leachate flow into the household surrounding the dump site. And I also know the NCD is planning to develop a drain around the landfill to contain this from moving out. However, these are not lined. Of course, they do leach into the groundwater. And there was an earlier study that tells you how far the leachate concentrations go, but it was not done by me, and I don't have it handy right now.
Okay.
I hope that answers
So,
everything.
Mansi,
So,
I'm sure it does.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
okay.
So
We
there
have
is
Mr.
Mr.
Nanda now.
Tarun. Yeah, Mr. Nanda.
Mr. Nanda's question is that you are using landfill waste without any treatment to make these blocks. Please explain why you call them inert and what makes them safe. Okay. I understand Mr. Nanda's question is largely for the city and not just me. The reason they are called inert blocks is so I can tell the municipality that they are made from a material they are calling inert soil. And if you have any questions regarding why they're calling it inert soil, I am not the person to address it. So in that regard, it's marketing. And that's how I procure the material. I call it, give me a sample of your inert soil, give me 15 tons of your inert soil, and that's how I get it. Why do I not treat it? Because I tested it for the parameters I wanted it tested for, and I did not see any anomaly in it. If you have any speculations against that, please feel free to test it out and let me know. I would be happy to incorporate your suggestions into the product. I hope that answers you.
I think it does. He still has a raised hand.
Hello?
Hi,
Yes.
Mr. Nanda.
Hi. So basically, the authorities are wrong when they call it inert because they're just calling it inert because it doesn't burn. But essentially, it's still toxic landfill waste, and you're just using it in blocks and putting it all around the city, no?
We're not putting it all around the city yet. It's in our R&D and pilot stage right now, and we're
But
looking
you
towards.
admit it's landfill waste that's untreated.
Yes, but I tested it out for heavy metals and it did not
But
give me any
how did you test
TCLP.
it?
I
How
sent
did
the
you test it?
sample to the Sriram lab. How do
And
you
what
test
test
it,
did they
Mr.
do?
Nanda? They conducted a TCLP test on it.
Which test?
A TCLP test, which
What's
was a
it
part
be?
of my presentation. If you joined earlier, you
But
would have
you
known.
admit it's untreated landfill waste.
I
See,
admit that I got it tested for a test that is called toxicity characteristic leaching procedure, and it shows me that there are no heavy metals that would leach.
Okay, but did
What?
you test for asbestos?
We did not.
No, so it could contain asbestos. It could contain nuclear waste, let's say. It could contain radioactive waste.
Where would you get that waste from, Mr. Nanda?
I mean, those garbage mountains could have anything in it, no?
Yeah, so then we tested out our sample for what was required. If you think there's more tests needed, please conduct the test.
I mean, why should I conduct the test? I'm just pointing out you're using untreated landfill waste. Same as the authorities. The authorities are doing the same. But
Okay.
there's no treatment going on. It's just a way
Okay.
to remove those garbage mountains and spread the waste around the city.
That's not it, actually. That's not the entirety of it. What you're saying is a very big oversimplification. What
Okay,
I'm
so
looking towards is creating.
Explain
There's
how
no.
the government are treating anything.
Why? That's a question for the authorities to answer. That's not a question for me to answer.
Well, you're
I know
taking their waste and making blocks and selling it around the city, no?
I am not
Admittedly, the
selling it around
government
the city.
okay,
Not
you want to
yet.
sell it around the city.
Oh, of course, once we're done with all the research and development, once we have a
Okay,
product
but
that we
it's going to pose a public health risk. It's untreated landfill waste.
Mr. Nanda, let's look at the pilot we've conducted. And hang on, I'll share my screen again.
So if I may just add, legacy waste by definition is more than 35 years old, and so whatever reactions had to take place has already taken place. That's what he's trying to say by that definition. Over to you.
No, but heavy metals don't degrade. Asbestos doesn't degrade. Radioactive waste doesn't degrade. Medical waste doesn't degrade. I mean, there's all kinds of pollutants.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind and test it out for that. If you could give me a list of
No,
pollutants, I'll
I'm
test it
sorry.
out for that.
I'm sorry. Would you be allowed to do this in any other country? Would you be allowed
Will
to
I
take
be...
landfill waste in America, turn it into blocks, and start putting it in public places?
Well, I mean, would I be allowed? Would I need more approvals? Sure. But did I get the authorities' approval before doing this? Yes. So I
Okay,
don't
but you admit
understand.
India is a big mess. No, India is a big mess. The
Well,
authorities are
my
not the ones to
presentation,
trust.
my presentation started out with the fact that we are in a mess right now.
Yeah,
But
so
I
you
don't
can't trust
see
the
why
authorities to say that it's inert material. You admit there's no
and
treatment going
for
on.
that, I would like to carry out the necessary testing. And if you think there are limitations or gaps
I
in
mean, the
what I've
government
tested
also
for,
shows tests that shows the landfill waste is non-toxic, but obviously
well,
it is.
well, why don't you test it out and prove it? Let's bring up something that's more than just speculation.
Look, based on first principles of science, you're using landfill waste that contains pollutants. No, if it didn't contain pollutants, there'd be no issue.
Well, for the pollutants that I felt were important, I've already tested it out.
Okay, well, maybe you did it. Maybe the test went wrong. Maybe you didn't test for the. Maybe you got lucky with that sample.
We'll test out more
Maybe the
samples.
testing lab is doing something funny. I mean, I've seen people claim all sorts of things with lab.
Okay, wait. Recommended
You
testing
admit
lab.
you're using landfill waste that's untreated, no? Regardless of any testing.
That's an oversimplification.
Okay, so how is it treated?
May I just join this conversation, Ranjana?
Yeah, please do, Mansi.
Yeah,
please.
Yeah. Thank you, Ranjana. Thanks, Tarun, if I may call Tarun Nanda. Yes, I just wish to jump into this conversation as even we had a very slight chance of engaging in Balaswa. And also because we work in some of the industrial sites where we also get wastes. I think the onus on declaring it as a legacy waste, it still goes by policy, as Ranjana was trying to mention. So to large extent, Ms. Tarun, in a way, we are redistributing the waste. If you look at that way, philosophically, it may sound right. But even philosophically, if we go further, if they are recycling or upcycling it, when we talk about one planet and reusing the same material in a different manner, I see a point with what Gunraagh is talking about in terms of, putting it in the right way, in terms of going through some process of testing as well as producing the product through some chemical processes. So there is some kind of treatment which is going on to produce this product.
Which there's no chemical processes or treatment.
Compaction, they are doing some compaction, and basically so what I'm trying to tell you is that both of your points, your point as well as what Gunraagh is doing as an initiative, both are correct. It's now up to us, and that's, if you were there in the meeting when I started, my first question with Gunraagh was that philosophically, with this kind of entrepreneurship, are we encouraging creation of more waste? And I will now ask the question which I wanted to ask that time. So, Gunraagh, my question is more on the social awareness side of it. Is there enough awareness program happening in the country on reducing the production of the waste? So I can understand that you have a genuine intent to actually reduce the waste in the city or in the country. But are we as community and citizens doing enough to reduce the waste so that that can be addressed first place, right? So it's a more social question from, because I have tried to reduce my waste in last 10 years by more than 70% than I was producing 10 years ago. So I'm more
I mean, I don't think we've answered the question of whether these blocks are safe. It's clear that
going the preventive, like you have taken as a pure approach question, but I want to understand the dynamics of it, because the question you are asking, I think we need to get some more experts to answer this question and have a panel discussion. And medical waste is definitely a genuine waste. So why don't we do one thing, Tarun? why don't we organize a panel discussion on this, and we get Gunraagh again, and we get more multidisciplinary perspective on that who is actually treating those, or who is assigning that this waste is
I mean,
okay.
actually, nobody claims that they're treating the waste. If you actually read their reports carefully, they actually point out that they're just segregating the waste. They might spray it with a solution of fermented fruit peels, and then they burn what they can, and the rest they're using for road fill. They're even turning it into fertilizer, which is one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard, because you can't take landfill waste and turn it into fertilizer, which can then enter the food chain. And then the road fill waste,
and that's already happening, by the way.
Sorry? So then they take they burn what they can, and then they use the rest as road material, or they give away what they call inert material to other people. But essentially, it's all just land. It's all untreated landfill waste.
That is already happening.
I know.
Yeah, I'm saying that is also point you are making is also we really have to go back to waste production. Only the solution seekers or solution makers.
I mean, that's a separate issue. That's a separate issue. I'm just talking about these blocks.
Actually, I was asking that question to Gunraagh before. I don't know whether
we were in the middle of discussing whether these blocks were safe or not. And the point is, the blocks are made from untreated landfill waste.
Okay.
So it's a redistribution of waste in a redistribution of waste in a more different approach with different approach. That's what your point is, right? And I think it's a fair point, and that needs
we can have a different discussion about the entire approach to solid waste management in Delhi and India.
Absolutely. I think the point you are raising definitely requires a new discussion.
No, because for these blocks, it is made from untreated landfill waste, which is what I'm trying to clarify. And
we have said that so many times, sir. I'm saying, give me a list of things
in England, you would not be allowed to do this, for sure. Well, I don't think in any European country you'll be allowed to do it.
I will try that.
Wouldn't be allowed to do it.
Let me procure samples, as many as I can, and test them out.
No, samples mean nothing in India. I mean, honestly, water samples mean nothing.
Where are
solid
you
waste
based?
samples
Let
mean
me
nothing.
Ask you.
It's untreated landfill waste. You can't say it doesn't contain pollutants. It's not a legitimate statement to make. You can't say I got it treated, I got it tested. There's no pollutants.
Well,
obviously, there's something wrong with the
very
test.
specific things, Mr. Nanda, and those are the things that matter to me. And according to that, my solution works. But if you think there's a gap, let me know where the gap is.
There's no solution. You're taking landfill waste and turning it into blocks. It has to contain pollutants. The pollutants can't magically disappear.
Well, tell me what pollutants there should be, and I test it out for them.
Tarun, point is well taken, and we need to continue the discussion, and definitely point is well taken, and we have to work on that and discuss it further, and we have to move on also in that discussion. So, I will remember your point. Please leave your email ID, because I am from the host. Leave your email ID and phone number, and we should find people who can really enlighten us with these questions.
Well, I'll tell you who promotes it. It's promoted by NGOs like CSE, and it's promoted by academics like RQ's Lucknow. And because it's all done by NGOs, they don't actually know what they're doing. So they make all this fake science.
Not for profit.
Biomining in India is not what biomining is in the rest of the world. Bioremediation in India isn't what bioremediation is in the rest of the world. So they use these terms.
And the interesting part is that knowledge transfer is happening from rest of the world to India most of the time in these fields.
Not knowledge transfer. They take a term that's a legitimate
technology
process.
Transfer as well, by the way. Huh?
Which knowledge transfer?
I'm saying the waste management techniques and technology and knowledge is lot of transfer. Its knowledge transfer is coming from the West.
Nobody does this in the rest of the world. Nobody calls segregating waste
biomining. It's adaptation.
It's adaptation. Biomining.
Biomining in India just means segregating waste. Biomining in the rest of the world.
Biomining, Mr. Nanda. I don't know what you're ranting about.
Biomining is how they produce the inert material. You should know the process they use to produce the material you use, no?
Mr. Nanda, I think it's
best.
Read
about it.
Yeah,
you should. I mean, you should have already.
May I request you to please leave your email ID and phone number as Dr. Mansi
Yes.
suggested, and maybe we'll get back to you. I don't think this is the right forum for this kind of a discussion. It was a very short discussion on Dumpcrete, so perhaps we can have a larger, broader discussion on solid
Yes,
waste management in India.
absolutely.
We can
Yeah,
do
I
that in
think we
another
also
panel
can
discussion.
include the water management and waste management together in the next discussion. And where what Tarun is talking about, we must get someone to really enlighten us on this issue as well. Because for me, lichet is our biggest concern, as Tarun is mentioning about other wastes as well.
Yes, those
Thank you,
are, of
Tarun.
course, yeah. Thank you, Tarun. And do we have any more questions? If we don't, we are already over short time. We're past 6 o'clock. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Tarun. And I'm looking forward to your name and number and email ID, but I don't see it in the chat box. Please
Well,
leave
you can
that.
connect on
And
LinkedIn
thanks.
because
Sure,
I've
I
already
will do
started to
that
write
right
it all
away.
up.
I will do
I've
that
actually
right
written.
away. And thanks, Gunraagh, for wonderful initiative. I mean, I really take Tarun's point very seriously, but at the same time, startups like yours are also struggling a lot to upscale because the intent is genuine. So it is only about now how can we make it more genuine in terms of implementation.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree.
So
It's about making
I
it
like
genuine.
your spirit of learning more.
Thanks. And I'm happy to fill in gaps there are, but somehow Mr. Nanda has come with
Absolutely,
such
that's the
a
spirit which
closed
is
box
required.
approach. You know what I'm
See, I
Totally.
saying?
think it's a
Thank you.
very good point that Tarun made. Tarun made a very good point, and I'm really seeing how to really now bring all of you together and see what can be done better in this sector. Maybe we have more novel and innovative ways to really think about the solutions, because see, these uncomfortable questions are extremely important for novelty. Fayaz's question is still pending. Let's take Fayaz's question. Thanks, Fayaz, for reminding. Thank you.
So Fayaz
Fayaz, you
says,
may unmute yourself and ask. Yeah. That will be nice. Sorry, Ranjana, over to you.
are you able to unmute yourself, or I'll just read it out? Fayaz says, I am from Kashmir. I have been working as environment volunteer since 5 years. My question is, did we have an effective policy regarding these dumping sites? So you could answer that. The answer is no, of course. So I think if we don't have anything else, maybe we will close the session. And so
Well,
once again,
I have
thank
a
you.
suggestion for Gunraagh. If he wants to do like good, sorry. So if you want to do good work and not use the landfill waste, you have to intercept the waste before it ends up in the landfill. So you have to take like construction debris that's safe to use, and you can use that to make bricks.
Sure.
But you can't take toxic landfill waste and make bricks out of that.
Right. Now, toxic in this case is a very subjective term where your parameters and my parameters have been different.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not going to entertain that. It's toxic landfill waste, right? Do you want to live in a house made from landfill waste?
Well,
no,
sir,
but
I want
Tarun
to
has a very
create a
valid
product.
point. Like Waste Warrior, I know I came across Waste Warrior in Haridwar, Rishikesh. They are taking the waste right from the doorstep to do whatever upcycling they are doing.
Right.
So it's a valid point. And yeah, people are doing different upcycling approaches.
But herein the response has not been to waste management, but how do you create an effective legacy waste management solution? That's why, tackling the legacy waste problem is much more important to me than it is to crack the supply chain on CND and later.
If it was so easy to solve just by putting it in blocks, there would be no problem. No, it's a difficult problem to solve. That's why we have the mountains.
We have to have these difficult discussions. Yeah, we have to start somewhere. And also these uncomfortable discussions are extremely important to find a way out. So with these words, let me just take a call and do the vote of thanks first to Ranjana Ray Chaudhuri, a dear friend and also professor at Terry School of Advanced Science and Studies. Thank you so much, Ranjana, for chipping in for this SOS situation, because both Fauzia and myself were not in a position to host this session. So I am really looking forward to having you more as a wonderful host as you have been today. So
Thank you so much.
Ranjana, and see you tomorrow. And for an initiative with a genuine waste in the city, a whole ray of hope of alternative careers. So that's an important, and also coming up with a product. But thanks to all the participants who have attended today, and especially to Tarun to come up with these ideas. And I am very much fond of uncomfortable questions and heated debates. To be honest, as I mentioned, the innovation lies there. Having a very cozy, comfortable discussions may sound good, but innovations will only come when we have uncomfortable situations, because then we are going to really think harder, all of us. And Tarun has sown that seed, and so now I am going to look out for someone who can answer these questions to us and get all of you together again. So do keep watching Wednesdays for Water for us. We have crossed 200 sessions, as Ranjana had already mentioned. And we have been really working hard on what conversations towards water conservation, where the whole effort is that unless and until we have these kind of discussions, including the heated discussion we had today, we are not going to make water everybody's business. We are not going to make it, like a coffee table discussion, like a dinner table discussion. Unless and until we are doing that, we are unable to reduce our waste. We are unable to conserve our water. And that's the whole idea of Wednesdays for Water at W4W Foundation. Do keep note that we also do Friday Waters, where we have water talkies, we bring water films. We have water thesis, where we get our scholars to talk about the research they do. We have book reading, where authors from all over the world have come and spoken about their book. And we have Friday Water Arts. This Friday, we do not have water arts. It is happening next week, because when we have 5 weeks, 5 Fridays, we always take one Friday or 1 week off for our, relax time. So next Friday, we do have Friday Waters, so do join there. And along with Friday Waters and Wednesdays for Water, we also do Monday Munching with Women for Water, where we are trying to bring and develop a bank of women waterpreneurs from the country. And we have also crossed their 50 sessions. So as you can see at W4W Foundation, we are really genuinely interested to bring this conversation to every household, where water becomes an everyday discussion, just like they are living every day with water, because we cannot do that. Thank you so much to all the participants in the past and today to make these conversations meaningful for us and keep us, on our toes. And your support and encouragement means a lot. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done more than 200 sessions. With these lines, we look forward to having you again and again this Wednesday, next Wednesday, and the more Wednesdays to come. Please take care of yourself and see you soon.